Is it a bird? Is it a plane? Or is it an alien sighting? The U.S. Defense Department has received over 350 new reports of UFOs, or unidentified aerial phenomena, since March of 2021. And over half of them appear to be balloons or drones, but the other half of these new cases could not actually be explained. And get this, they, quote, appear to have demonstrated unusual flight characteristics or performance capabilities. What does that mean? Well, joining us now to discuss what this actually means for the future of humanity, because that's what we all want to know, is our science and tech correspondent, Ariel Levin-Waldman. Ariel, I know how much you love to talk about extraterrestrial life and aliens, but to begin, where are the majority of these new sightings coming from?
So unsurprisingly, the overwhelming majority of these sightings, same as the sightings in last year's report, are coming from American military members. You have to remember, who is most likely to be scanning the skies at any given time, and who has the best equipment on Earth for scanning what's out there in the sky? Well, it's no surprise that most of the visuals of unidentified aerial phenomena are recorded on various military equipment, including the most famous videos on the internet, which show, as you mentioned, those unusual flight characteristics, turning in mid-flight, incredible speeds, no apparent flight vectoring, yet the ability to maneuver in air, and to pull G-forces that planes simply cannot, particularly not planes that have anybody inside them. So who's seeing it is just as important as what they're seeing. Right. You mentioned before that they could only identify maybe about half of them as drones or balloons or whatever. The Pentagon did come out and say they do not have any evidence that it is either aliens or that it is a rival state's cutting-edge military technology. Right. But at the same time, if they have no idea what it is, they can't rule out the possibility of it being a rival state's military technology. So if the military is the one seeing it, well, who else is most likely to be flying cutting-edge tech near naval bases?
Right. Okay. So that's, of course, very important to keep in mind, that it's not just your average Joe out in the middle of, I don't know, Oklahoma or up on the skyscrapers of New York City that's catching these this visual phenomena. But what I want to know is, you know, this increase in sightings, and it is an increase, actually comes after the U.S. Congress released a major report on UFOs in 2021. It was the first of its kind. It looked at 144 reported cases. Why all of a sudden are we seeing such an uptick in the amount of so-called sightings being viewed, and were any breakthroughs made in that specific report?
So no real breakthroughs to mention. Simply put, as I said before, they said they could not identify half of them, and what that means is anybody's guess. Why is it coming out to the public now? Quite simple. The military and the U.S. government in general is taking unidentified aerial phenomena more seriously. Yeah. In the past, bringing up that you saw something you couldn't explain was a one-way ticket to no promotions for the rest of your life and getting drummed out of the military.
Institution.
Or depending on what you're claiming, yes. So it was not something that was done if you wanted to pursue a career. Even high-ranking people in Israel that have claimed things about UFOs have virtually ended their careers overnight. So nobody wants to mention it. But there is the possibility that rival states are flying unknown materials in American airspace. If you look at historical sighting records, such as Project Blue Book, published by the U.S. Air Force in 1970, you found every single year there was a massive uptick in UFO sightings. Was the year the United States was testing top-secret spy planes that defied the capabilities the Soviets had at the time. So the question is, if American servicemen are seeing unknown aerial phenomena, is there a rival power testing their own top-secret projects that nobody has an explanation for? And that's a very good reason to take it seriously. No one needs to worry about ET here, but worrying about Russia or China, that's a much more terrestrial threat.
Obviously, we're focused on the security issues here in that context, of course, but there are probably other reasons that the United States has become so much more open to the study of life in space as a whole, right? I mean, there is an American interest in seeing if there is extraterrestrial life that's out there, or if there's any validity to the claims of these so-called UFO sightings, correct?
Well, absolutely. I wouldn't just say it's an American interest, it's a global interest, because you have radio frequency telescopes being built all around the world to try to listen to space. What's out there? Can we hear something? Every single time man sends a probe into deep space, like Voyager, for instance, they slap a message on the side. If anybody finds this, we're here. Every time they spend a few $1 billion on a Mars mission, they're probing the soil. Can you find fossilized bacteria? The biggest question that mankind has ever had is, are we alone in the vast emptiness of space? And if we're not, should we at least try to see if there's anybody out there?
Yeah, well, it is quite the question. Obviously, when we hear about these I mean, really just this uptick in reports, over 350 sightings, stands out. We want to learn more about this. We want to know if there have been any breakthroughs, if perhaps there's something out there in space that we're not aware of. But I guess we're going to just have to wait and have you come back into the studio next time.
I'll be happy to talk about the same topic.
I'm sure you will be, as will I,
breakthroughs.
as will I. We didn't even touch on the Israeli professor. I mean, you mentioned it briefly, who said that there was actually
A
proof.
global society, galactic society was the claim.
Exactly. That was a claim, but that's for our next discussion. Ariel, thank you so much for joining us.